Well, howdy, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Couch Gambit podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a long list of non-controversial subjects such as religion, politics, and the American dream. Let's roll that intro. Welcome back, everybody, to the second episode of the Couch Gambit podcast. We're pretty much going to spend this whole episode just roasting Zoomers, and I'm going to start off by introducing everyone. I'm Liam Quay. I will be hosting the second episode, and this, to my right, is Michael Riccibono. Quick question, Michael. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of our country?
Yes.
Be a little bit more clear.
Oh. I mean, we're probably fucked, but we're probably okay.
Probably fucked, but probably okay. I do
Yeah.
like that answer. Now, to his right is a Mr. Jacob Sizemore. Mr. Jacob Sizemore, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of this country?
Plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth.
Yeah.
Pussy. Alrighty. And over here to my left is a Mr. Charles Carlisle. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of our country?
I am optimistic about a quick and painless downfall.
I like your answer.
It's coming. We'll just try to make the best of it.
Try to make the best of it. So yes, today's episode will revolve around the overall culture of our country, where it's going in the future. And honestly, I'm kind of stuck in a middle place when it comes to being optimistic or pessimistic. I'm optimistic because there seems to be a counterculture of young people becoming religious and also wanting to uphold certain traditional values. But for the most part, the vast majority of Gen Zers support more progressive policies. 2/3 disapprove of Donald Trump's work and ultimately disagree with a lot of his politics. And 34% of all Gen Zers are religiously unaffiliated. So I do have my concerns, though I hope that the few down below can ultimately come up and make something out of it.
Yeah, and also my thing is with Gen Zers. I was calling them Zoomers for the longest time, but I bet that the average Gen Zer, when they say that they disagree with Donald Trump, they probably don't even know what his policies actually fucking are.
100%.
Like no cap, I believe is what the Gen Zers would say. I say that as I am an elder of the Gen Zer community. I was born in 97, January 1st.
He started this shit show.
I know. This is my fault. Look, before I always thought that I was just one of the baby millennials. No. I was actually on the council of elders for the Gen Zers. A lot of the, behavioral like habits of the Gen Zers originated from my council.
There's actually only one baby born before him. That was the one they sacrificed, the devil. And then Cameron brought in.
Well,
the wrath.
funny thing though, actually the funny thing is when I was born, I was the first natural born baby. Natural. There was one fucker. It was not natural. I think it was like a C-section. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, right.
I'm dumb.
Ceremonial dagger, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was me. I was C-section.
I'm surprised you knew that, Mikey. Very impressive. But yeah, no, I doubt the average Gen Zer loser knows really what Donald Trump actually did during his presidency and actually what good he did. Now, granted, I'm not saying he's perfect. The man's not perfect.
Most of the people around 2016, when all the opinions started rolling around, most people didn't know anything about politics because politics wasn't popular around that time. And then as soon as 2015, 2016 rolled around, you were in high school around that time. I was in high school around that time. I know.
Absolutely.
Everybody all of a sudden turned into a political mastermind. They knew everything. It's I know this, so I know this. And you were in high school. You didn't care 5 minutes ago. And all of a sudden you're starting to realize I know about the judicial system. I know about the Senate. All of those things, so that's fun.
I didn't even really fully know about any of that until probably right before I was 18. I kind of I had a vague understanding, but I didn't pay attention very well in school.
Everybody had opinions, but still didn't know what they were talking about.
The thing is, I want to follow up on your point. When I do agree, when most Gen Zers say they disapprove of the work that Donald Trump is, the truth is that the vast majority of Gen Zers don't really have a heavy involvement in politics just yet. They're still fairly young, and they have less to risk overall in the political system.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, they like to think they're involved heavily, right? They like to think that, what they say actually makes sense and that it matters. It doesn't. But really, the problem that a lot of people have with Donald Trump, when they say it's his policies, no. The problem that they have is it's his rhetoric. Okay, don't get me wrong. I think overall his presidency, banger, solid job, right? But man, the man should probably not be on Twitter all that often. Nor should he. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were some funny things, but
It's his attitude that people didn't appreciate. Like,
Yeah.
you can appreciate or not appreciate what Donald Trump did, but you cannot say that he was a uniting president. He was definitely divisive, and you can say that about like our current president as well, Joe Biden. Like, neither of those presidents, love him or hate him, are a uniting president. They're very divisive because both of them come from different, completely separate and far ends of the political aisle. Donald Trump is very far on the right side. Joe Biden is very far on the left side, and these are not uniting factors.
I mean, I would hardly say that Donald Trump is very far on the right side.
Well, I'm not saying far. That's
Okay.
that's a different thing. Far right and right. I'm just saying like he's very much on the right side of the spectrum, or at least he changed when he needed to. He was not Republican for the majority of his life.
I was going to say this same exact thing goes for Biden, and even right
Yeah.
now he's not on the far side of the left, but he's certainly adapted his views to try and gain popularity.
Well, some people say he's not on the far side of the left, but he definitely supports a lot of policies that are on the far side of the left. A lot of people say like he's in between, like not really.
Yeah, I was going to say now he does. 15 years ago, not even.
No, he didn't. He
Not
was saying
even-
some interesting stuff back when 15 years ago.
The thing is it wasn't until really the beginning of his presidency where he started to build a lot more of the progressive persona, as you say, because even before the election, granted, he probably said a lot of more moderate things just to kind of bring in the more moderate people or the more right-leaning people that maybe disapproved of Trump, but overall, he still defends a lot of more moderate points of view, be it he also does put into law a lot of very far left laws.
He ran on being the opposite of Trump, on being a uniting president, and I don't think he's done any of that. I don't think he's united us in any way, shape, or form.
He very specifically hasn't. I mean, you saw the speech he gave. I can't remember outside of what.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He was literally saying that
gibberish.
Dude.
Just
Yeah.
gibberish. Like,
it was the
Yeah.
opposite of unity.
Well, yeah, basically when he tries to attack a certain group of people, specifically the MAGA people, which makes up about half the country if you actually look at the data, and ultimately that's just going to tear us apart more. I mean, I guess I can give him the benefit of the doubt, and maybe he's referring to the very specific like group of people that are MAGA always, no matter what. But even then, I mean, he's just being general with the term.
I've stopped being charitable. I don't. Yeah, no, 100%. Like we know how they use rhetoric to try and promote their views. They always go to the extreme, or they try to minimize their language. But they're always twisting it in one way or another. The MAGA Republican, he's just talking about everyone on the right.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, on that side of things, it is not popular, or you're not going to get noticed if you are in between now, it feels like. Like when the Democratic primaries were happening, Tulsi Gabbard, who seemed to be the most reasonable person that was on the Democratic primaries and someone that I don't know if I would vote for, but I definitely agree with her on quite a few things. I like a lot of her sensibilities, and everyone ignored her. Everyone ignored all the sensible Republicans and Democrats and just immediately went for the person who was either the most loud or the most so it's not popular to be down the middle. You have to be either hard Republican or hard Democrat.
Well, and
now.
that was the big thing for Donald Trump's campaign. Like he was so far removed from like the traditional like Republican. Like he was kind of like seen as this really big decisive like change.
Yeah.
That a lot of people found refreshing, while a lot of other people found scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, Donald Trump. I mean, he ran for president in a way that was unlike other people.
Yeah, he ultimately did go against the whole grain, against the grain with a bunch of Republicans and the rhetoric that Republicans have probably been spouting for the past since the 80s, really, about the whole we need to lower the government, and we need to take this more libertarian stance on people's personal choices and how we use the government for power. Donald Trump kind of just stepped in. He says, no, I reject what the left is doing. I'm going to use the government to the best of my ability to stop it. Not only that, I'm going to use the government specifically to put tariffs on products that are coming in, and I'm going to use the government and to my will.
Yeah, so it's just with Trump. Oh man, not only that though, but I think it's not just the way he would handle politics, right? Because that's the thing. It's just I think so many people found him refreshing how he would, because obviously politicians attack politicians all the time, but Trump did it in such a more human way that people were just like, oh, bet.
It was.
This
It's
man's
like
awesome.
when I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not.
When Dave Chappelle went on SNL and he told all of those people, like, look, you can hate the Republicans and MAGA people if you want to. That's fine. But here's the thing. Like, you got to understand why these people voted for Trump. And he talked about when Trump went on the Hillary versus Trump debate, and he brought up the fact, like, yeah, I use this system to my advantage. I definitely get off tax-free in some things. That's because I'm smart. And he pointed to Hillary. You could reverse this if you wanted to, but you won't because your donors get this stuff. And that just like, oh my gosh. And that, like, for the common guy, I feel like that's like engage. I hit the mic, engaging.
Well, the thing is, I think that he also represents. I know a lot of leftists like to try to criticize the point that he doesn't really represent the working class because he's this billionaire, which to an extent is true. But he has working class taste. Dude likes to eat McDonald's. Dude knows how to attack. He's against the system, which a lot of working class people are. And he's just funny. Like, he's generally just a funny person.
What I was thinking on this, I don't know if I'm skipping ahead, but the way I found Trump was during the primaries for the 2016 election. They started doing compilation clips of like dumb moments and gaffes and stuff like that. And one of the funniest ones was watching Trump. Thought he was a clown. And then you watch more of it and you start to see a kernel of humor, truth, and it just starts to grow on you. Yeah, by the end of it, man, I was fully on board. The guy's great. I mean, he says ridiculous things, but it's exactly the same way that Tate's come to the forefront of everything.
Oh, brother. Andrew Tate.
We'll get to
What a
Tate in a
taint.
moment.
Yeah, he. I mean, it's almost become a formula at this point. There's so many people who've copied that exact thing. Andrew Tate's one of them, and I don't think he's as good at it. I don't think it's genuine by any means. But
My thing with Andrew Tate is that I really genuinely believe that a lot of the points he tries to make, the end result, it makes sense, right? It how to be a man, but like his thought process on how to be a man is whack.
just a bit.
Just a
bit.
wee
He's
bit.
wilding.
Yeah, man.
The
Oh
problem
yes,
is,
your wife is your property. It's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
it is funny because he will go out of his way to preach all these traditional values while ultimately not doing not abiding by the very values he preaches. He'll say, hey, try to raise. He'll go on about the nuclear family, like, hey, try to raise a good family and all that. And while he also, on the other hand, says, yeah, I fuck bitches and.
Oh, brother.
He's not the everyday man, and we all know that he's not the everyday man. But I don't know. This might go off on a completely different tangent. There's a very strange thing when rich people like that try to play the everyday man. But at least in that aspect, Andrew Tate, as much as I'm not a huge fan of him, he doesn't pretend to be the everyday man. He doesn't pretend like these big rich celebrities to like talk down to little people. It's like, we're just like you. Andrew Tate is like, nah, I have like 16 cars in the background, and like all of these women who are like lining up. And the way, whatever way that he speaks, like I don't buy watches because watches are like whatever the heck. I don't even know if that's even an accent. What the heck is that?
Oh God, I could go on and on about that accent. It's so fake.
Yeah, I'm
I
happy it
think a
annoys
lot of
you
stuff
too,
that-
because like, what is that? It's annoying as hell.
Yeah, I can't stand it. And I mean, I think it's a lot of his persona. I mean, even a lot of his ideas that he espouses. It's not just that he's misguided. It's that the positions that he takes, especially with abortion, it's not based on actual principle. It's based on, a lot of times he goes off of like personal responsibility instead of just saying it's a human life.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's misguided, but people will latch on to like little sound bites of what he says.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. But I mean, I think one of his first big financial moves was managing OnlyFans accounts or Camgirl accounts.
Really?
Oh yeah.
My
He's
gosh.
a scumbag.
Yeah, clearly.
no.
Well,
It's-
I mean, I don't know. I'm not caught up to date on like what is this whole thing about the human? Because I don't know a lot about this. What is this human trafficking thing that he's currently looped up in?
So okay, I wanted to get as up to date information as I could.
Oh, good, yeah.
He was released from prison. They haven't brought official charges against him.
Oh.
But he was placed under house arrest. The maximum is 180 days. There's a lot of opinions on this. Some are saying that they're just trying to keep him in jail as long as possible, or in custody as long as possible
Yeah.
to get him. Others are saying that it's the prosecution trying to buy some more time to file the charges against him, do a little bit more digging. But they haven't actually introduced evidence. They don't have to turn it over until charges are
Yeah.
filed. So we just don't know.
My big thing with Tate, and I apologize if I interrupted, by the way.
No, you're good.
But I think I've said this before, like, not on the podcast, obviously, because this is fucking episode 2. But just when we were hanging out, I would not be surprised either way, though, if Andrew Tate is guilty or not. Like, truthfully.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
on one hand, he is truly just a deviant, a fiend, a villain,
He's a scumbag.
terrible.
100%. Yeah.
Right? But on the other hand, it's like whether he actually engaged in these illegal acts, right? I could believe it, but I could also believe that there's really no truth to it.
It ultimately comes down to, yes, he's a pimp and he makes money off of exploiting women online. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went a little bit further with it. On the other hand, he spouts a lot of right wing views. So I also wouldn't be surprised if it was ultimately a scam.
I mean, I can say there's been a couple of times where people have been quote unquote persecuted for right wing political views. Lauren Southern was detained at the border of, I think, the UK whenever she tried to enter. But I don't know. I'm not buying that the Romanian government is going after Andrew Tate for right wing views. They're one of the most corrupt governments in the.
I do, unless you have a point that we're not going to address this body pillow, are we?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, well,
She's stunning.
Yeah.
so I think a lot of the reasons why a lot of people latch on to Andrew Tate is a lot of the reasons that people, maybe for different reasons, very different reasons, but a lot of reasons why people latch on to people like Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson or people like this, because it speaks to traditional masculinity. Now, I am not an Andrew Tate fan in any way, shape, or form. I don't really like all the stuff that he espouses, but I can agree, like, there are certain elements to what he says that are like, oh, I like that little nugget, but everything else I don't like.
Well,
like,
he says one thing that, like, oh, super based.
Yeah.
And then he keeps going. It's like,
like,
oh,
whoa.
pretty mid. And then
That's
he keeps
rough,
going.
buddy.
It's like, oh, that's cringe. But please go on. Sorry.
no,
That's
you're
the
good.
formula, though.
It is, but there's this entire generation of like lost men who don't really have an identity who like latch onto that. Like that's kind of speaks to like me or like my traditional masculinity in that kind of certain way, and they latch onto that and they want to grasp that and they want to find people that kind of agree with them on that aspect, like Joe Rogan, like Jordan Peterson, like preach to that aspect. I think Jordan Peterson is a very good example on that aspect. I don't think Andrew Tate is a very good example on that aspect, but like to each his own. A lot of people latch onto him because of that.
And here's my big thing. So this just goes also to show that like Gen Zers are just kind of fucked. So because with Andrew Tate, and then you have a lot of the political like left, right? Who are the extreme left, where a lot of Gen Zers will gravitate towards these extreme types of positions, and they won't really research more on the deeper meaning of what they're trying to espouse, right? So for a lot of people and the Gen Zers, with the left, it's all about diversity, doing the right thing, all that stuff, right? And then with a lot of straight white men, for example, are seen as white privilege, right? And so those Gen Zers who are white men who feel basically isolated, all that stuff, well, now they have someone like Andrew Tate, who is not necessarily a force of good, basically, in essence, having them have a mindset that is not healthy. So Gen Zers are, when I say like they're fucked up, if you're politically left because of those in office, and some of them are kind of fucked on the right because of people like Andrew Tate, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess when you have one side that goes so far in one direction and you naturally have an opposition on the other side, they're going to go further to the other side, and it's ultimately going to completely split up the entire political spectrum.
You sent this is completely off topic. You sent us a Wikipedia article that says our current generation, the Gen Z people, they are definitely on the progressive side. They definitely lean towards all of this kind of rhetoric and stuff like that. I'm not saying everybody, but definitely quite a few people. So on that aspect, why do you think that is?
I think it's just simply that as the generations go on, they tend to become more liberal and more progressive overall. And I think that ultimately just goes too far. Like, in the early days of, like, say, the 60s, there's a lot of problem with some of the politics of the 60s, but there's also a lot of great things. You have the civil rights movement, which came out of it, which is a great thing. You have second wave feminism, which is kind of split. There was a lot of negative aspects about it, but there's also a lot of good positive aspects about it as well. But I think over time, the previous generation will teach the next generation, and the next generation will kind of take those ideas and take it a step further, be like, all right, well, what are we missing? What are we perhaps? What can we improve upon?
You could say that the previous generation may have been lacking a little bit in compassion, because I definitely come from a family that teaches traditional morality in that aspect. But I definitely can see from a lot of the previous generation, they are missing in that compassion area, where they're teaching do hard work, do the job, get everything done, which I agree with. Sometimes on the aspect, they're missing the compassion element, and that's where this generation come in. They wanted to be a little more feeling, a little more understanding of people who may have been disproportionate throughout the years. And now, because of that current generation, things may have been gone a little too far on that aspect. So, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Maybe it's some things that current generation was missing, or maybe come from a little darker place. Maybe come from an area to where there's one little girl in her mom's house, like, it's not a phase, Mom, and then she continues to be like that into her 30s, and she's the worst.
Well, I know that ultimately, a lot of millennials tend to support bigger government programs that, in their mind, would benefit them, because a lot of them felt disaffected by the 2008 crash, and they just feel disaffected with the market overall because they felt like it's failed them.
Oh no! I think it's fucking stupid to rely on government to take care of you.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
It's just, I think we talked about this a bit in the first episode, how we're becoming like a weaker and weaker generation, right? Because we want government to basically solve all our problems for us, solve, like the problem of diversity, even though what problem is there? I don't understand, or, I want government to take care of me. It's the same thing, like there's a huge reason why, for example, we don't have like the traditional family values of like the two-parent households, right? Because you're a single mom, the government will take care of you. The government is your hubby. It is your daddy, right? And that just promotes just weak family structure, right? Weak children who don't have the discipline that a father would normally provide. And so like that's why Gen Zers, they don't have the disciplines, the disciplines, plural, that our parents may have had, right? They don't have the same values that led them to be more successful. It's just it's unfortunate, but it's just a fact. It's reality.
Well, and the obvious one is COVID. I mean, the government.
Oh,
taking
brother!
I mean,
we've arrived.
Oh man, you could go on and on. I mean, you could write a dissertation about this,
Dear
about
Lord.
how the government has come in and radically changed everybody's perspective about work. I mean, everything from labeling certain jobs as essential to paying out people to stay home. And I mean, now workforce is it's not at an all-time low, but workforce participation has been.
So, yeah, and I'm sorry, were you still going to say something?
Oh no, we can.
Well,
bounce
because
it
my
around.
big thing, on the COVID thing, right? Because I remember back when I worked at Michael's Keys, locksmith company, that's considered essential. Okay, and what was so infuriating is that during the whole pandemic, while I'm working my ass off, okay, while the people I work with, they're like they're trying to pay their bills still, right? They're working hard every day. Then there are people who are sitting on their asses, not doing a damn thing, getting money from the government, and they're getting paid more than some of my coworkers. And that is
Tax-free.
insulting. It's infuriating. How is that? First off, how is that fair? Okay, like now, to make it fair, which I still don't think this was, but this might be the best thing to do. But like, if you really had to pay people a shit ton of money to just sit on their asses and do nothing, then the people who are going out there in the workforce still, doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? Working hard every day. Why not give them a bit of extra money?
Well, and they think it seems like people think that money came from somewhere, and it didn't.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Well, a part of it is you're going to get the votes that way. If you're not,
Yeah.
if you're going to be sitting on your butt the entire time, and you can make an excuse. I'm not saying everyone had the excuse. I am not downplaying COVID, but for a lot of people, it is not necessarily as big as it was. Like, again, like I mentioned this in the last podcast, like we made a whole deal about COVID, but we can just walk inside our house and just sit on our couch, watch Netflix, and get paid that way. And I agree with you. It does not seem fair that people who still had quote unquote essential jobs, it's such a stupid way to make a label on that, like say that your job is essential, but your job isn't essential. It's so stupid. But to say that, I don't know.
And
Again, thanks for the alcohol. This is really helping my thought process.
Naturally, if you're going to disrupt a bunch of market forces, and on top of that, you're just going to give a bunch of people free money, thus inflating the national debt even more, you're going to see the ramifications of that as soon as it's over.
Well, and I can't even, to be honest with you, I can't even blame people for taking the deal. If
It's a
somebody
good deal.
offered,
Oh, no,
if somebody
it's
It's free
offered-
money,
Oh,
man.
Trust me, I loved seeing money just pop up in my account for nothing.
Yeah, if somebody offered me $4,000 to sit on my
Yeah.
ass for months on end and do nothing, I'm taking
But the
deal.
difference is you had a job. The people who didn't have a job and just received that is like, oh, this is cool. Back to
Yeah.
Netflix.
No, but no, seriously, I don't blame people for taking. Like, I'm not saying that you're a terrible person for sitting on your ass and letting the government give you money, right?
I'm actually jealous. Yeah.
Probably,
No,
you're probably the average
I'm-
person.
Seriously, I'm kind of jealous, right? I really am. But the thing is that it shouldn't have happened.
No.
It should not have happened. You're not the problem, right? You're not the problem. Government's the problem.
And
That's the issue.
That was ultimately the one thing that I couldn't stand is when people would be like, well, if people would just stay inside, if they would just wear their mask, then all of this can end. No,
yes.
if the local governments would just not put all these unreasonable policies in place, then it could.
Plus,
then it
this
could
is
end.
all policies that are all new. We're learning about this as we go along, and you're so determined to implement these policies that you don't even know are going to work. And then all of a sudden, these studies come afterwards that say, "Oh, we didn't really need to do the lockdowns. We didn't really need to do." Are you checking on the body pillow? We didn't necessarily need to do all of this stuff at all. And it's concerning for all of us who just wanted to get outside, to do our jobs, to go back to normal. And it's frustrating for us. Is she okay?
No, she's beautiful. She's beautiful.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
Sorry,
Making
I
sure.
was,
Well,
I was
yeah.
stunned.
Yeah, on that, like, and even though from the very start I was against the idea of shutting everything down and making people stay in their house, I could at least understand it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But once the numbers actually started coming out, once we understood that COVID basically wasn't that much of a threat and we continued doing it, not only for like a few months, for almost 2 years we continued doing it. It just blows my mind.
And then all of a sudden, look, we live in Texas. Once things got back to normal, or at least like to a relatively controllable standard. Texans, we didn't care anymore, and we got back to normal immediately. And then all of the surrounding states, or at least like the big other states, they took their time getting back to normal. Their businesses were still shut down. Meanwhile, we were getting back to what we normally do, and we were fine.
To be fair, we were a little bit later than, say, Florida was on it. I mean, before 2021, there was a certain point where I was just getting sick of it. I was walking into I remember one time I walked into a Walmart store, and they were handing masks out at the front. I just walked past it. I was buying, at the time, I was actually trying to grow a really nice beard. So I was buying a beard shaper, and I had this Walmart employee walk by, and she says, "Sir, do you want a mask?" I looked right at her. I was like, "Oh, I'm good." And then I remember just people would give you stares at a certain point, which is weird to me, given the fact that you're just doing a normal thing. You're just going to the store. But we ended up making it such a big deal that people would think, "Oh my God."
But if you
He's
sit at
not
a table
considering
and
other
you're right
people.
next to each other for some reason, that's different.
Oh, I had a lady try to block me from going down one of the Walmart aisles. You remember when they had those little arrows on the
my
ground?
God.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Where you would have thousands of people a day walking down the aisle, but God forbid you walk the opposite direction. A lady tried to block me from going up the aisle because I
Yeah.
didn't want to walk through a crowd of people that were
Oh my
clogging up the
gosh.
main aisle.
It's your own fault for
I
not
mean,
following
she-
directions.
Oh
you,
yeah,
man.
sorry, I can't read an arrow.
Fiend.
It was just, it was
Vagabond.
crazy.
You're
Ruffian.
canceled immediately. Get out of
Rapscallion.
here. Disgusting.
But
Devil.
returning all of this, I mean, it
Hitler.
was. it's this whole thing has just invaded the culture in a way that I don't know that there's any way of coming back from this. People are talking about, God, it's lended itself to all these different kinds of like get rich quick schemes, and people talking about how companies just need to start paying more if they want to compete with the government.
Well, do you want to know what someone once equated the pandemic to me as this is an example of what the American dream should have been? Sitting on your ass, doing nothing, and getting paid so you can focus on bettering yourself, on doing skill sets for yourself.
But after that,
No, so
Who did that?
who the
Huh? No, I'm being serious. So I had total communist. He'll call himself a socialist, but communist, saying that the pandemic did so much for me, because like I didn't have to focus on work. I could just focus on just bettering myself. And I asked him, "How'd you better yourself?" It's like, "Oh well, I did like a lot. I did some reading, and bro, I learned how to play poker." I was like, "You learned how to play poker?"
That's the difference between that's the generational gap right there. The last generation got where they got because they worked hard, and at the end of the day, they got to relax, they got to reap the benefits of their awards, and our generation just wants the awards. We want the immediate gratification. We want the time to better ourselves, but we don't really benefit. We just do what we want to do. Our version of bettering ourselves is going out into clubs and hitting on women that are way out of our league, and
Yes.
women hitting on people that are the wrong people.
I had
Going
one other-
online,
Well, on
trying to
top-
hustle
let's-
university.
Yeah.
It's not just that
Exactly.
though. Our generation feels a certain sense of entitlement to it. They
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
they
Oh
feel
my
like
gosh.
housing should just be a right. They feel like healthcare should just be a right. They feel like
Cringe.
pretty much not working a 40-hour week should be a right.
Did
So-
you?
I'm not gonna say a name, right? But this is a good friend of mine, and if you're watching this, bud, I still love you. Fuck you, Mikey. But I still love this guy like wholeheartedly. Not gay, but no. He's a really good friend of mine, right? But he told me when he during the pandemic, like he was just getting paid to sit on his ass and do nothing, and he told me, I also kind of took up some skills. It's like, oh really? Like what? What did you spend time doing? He's like, well, like for a decent part of my during the pandemic, I learned to skateboard. I'm like,
skate.
oh, skateboard.
You have benefited society, my brother.
And
What the hell?
I was
The
like,
next Tony Hawk.
no, but seriously, so when people say that, like give me that cringe take of, oh, well, allowed me to, kind of learn a skill set. I'm like, okay, but how is it going to help you in the future? Like, I'm telling you now, my buddy who learned to skateboard, he's not going pro. He's not even going to try to go pro. I don't recommend it. And as for the guy who's like, oh yeah, I learned to play poker. I learned, a bit more about yoga. I was like, yeah. How's that going to make you money later? It's not.
See, I had the opposite feeling. I felt like I was just wasting a lot of time when I could have actually been doing something to improve my income overall and also improve my overall abilities.
Well, I take that back. I was actually getting out and being more active than I've ever been in my life. I wasn't shooting pool, but
There we go. The one real member
by
of
the
this
way.
society.
But
but
right
I
over
was
here.
also
Total
an
pro.
essential employee, so you know.
Yeah.
So was I, but I worked at a video store. I'm not really sure how that was essential.
What?
I worked at Starbucks. I was very essential.
I worked
apparently.
for the government.
You what?
I worked for the government.
Oh yeah, there
Ah.
we go.
That's right.
Just
Base.
So not essential. All right.
Hey,
Oh, shit.
Did you? I don't know who I'm talking to. Did you see this video of that one Starbucks employee who was like crying on camera? And
Oh,
look,
yeah.
like,
Yes.
enough hours.
the 8-hour video. Look, if you are tired of your job and you cry, that's one thing. If you post it online, you are more than welcome to all of the internet's debacle. It means we're going to insult the crap out of you. That being said, this guy was a turd. What the heck are you getting online for and complaining at 8 hours at Starbucks? You will survive, dude. There's a child in Cambodia who's making your Nike shoes for a penny an hour. Get out of my face, dude. What the heck
Wow.
are you talking about?
Customer service.
Customer
Man.
customer
Dude,
service,
you know
man.
what? I worked part-time at a Home Depot. Awesome work environment, but I swear to God, everybody else hated it. Well, it was okay. So you had the old dogs, and you had the up-and-coming generation, and everybody got along great with each other. But there was such a difference in the way that they approach customer service. You know, I mean, it's just everybody's either trying to get through the day or worried about themselves when the whole point of the job is customer experience.
Yeah.
I get it. People are shitty, but you know, I personally have had the experience of walking into a store and either the person smiling at me and making my day, or being shitty and kind of ruining it.
Yeah.
Having a good day and then somebody in their own head can't separate their personal life from their professional life and has to dump it on the first person they see.
Do you want to know one thing that I always do, no matter how poor of a mood I'm in, right? And I think I got this, strangely enough, from my dad, right? I love my dad, by the way, but man, he could be an asshole at times. But I think my dad was, a gentleman at his heart, because no matter how poor of a mood I'm in, how poor of a mood my dad may have been, one thing that we always would do, we would open the door for someone, right? Like I go to Quick Trip, right? And I know that there's someone behind me, and I don't care if they're like I saw them, as long as they're not at the pump, right? I see them approaching. I'm like, okay. I open the door, have it open for them, and 8 times out of 10, they give me a solid thanks. And I do think, genuinely, they probably appreciate it, right? I hope they do. But yeah, like that's just something that I see a lot of people my age, our age, they don't do that. They do not do that. And I'm not gonna lie, if more people just did that, express kind of like just decent, human behavior to your neighbor or to a stranger, I feel like we'd be in a much better place.
Treat yourselves treat others like human. Treat others how you would want to be treated. Again, that seems like a very simple message, but something that's lost on our current generations who's just out to get theirs, who's just out to treat
It
themselves.
pretty much is like that, because everything that Gen Zers typically are focused on is, well, how can I help better my life? How can I help make myself feel better? How can I feel more relaxed? How can I improve myself? How can I treat myself well? And it's just me,
While
me
at the
all
same
the time.
While at the same time, they will spout bullshit philosophy and what they think that the government should do or what the world should do to better the lives of everyone.
But
when
they
in
won't do
reality,
anything.
They won't do a single thing because they are lazy pieces of shit. I'm sorry. I'm in the same category, right? I'm a Gen Zer, right?
The harbinger.
Well, I remember.
Harbinger of truth.
I do.
direct
The thing is, I want to add to that point. A lot of Gen Zers that take on the more left wing point of view, they go on about how we should help support other people, but their main priorities are always on themselves. And I've even had a discussion with one of my friends on this. I was talking about, well, why should the government get involved? I mean, why not donate to your local charities when you have the opportunity? Why not why not when presented with the opportunity to take care of a little girl that has cancer, put money in the basket? Why not present it with the opportunity to ultimately fund an organization that hopes to say solve world hunger? Put the money in the basket. It's like, well, I personally don't want to be burdened with all that, so I would rather have the money taken from my taxes and put toward it because I don't care about other people. And I know that sounds kind of wild to say, but it was wild to hear because I was walking with him when I was talking to him about this, and it blew my mind because it just goes to show exactly what the mentality of a lot of young people tend to be. They don't actually want to put the effort into helping people.
Yes.
The problem is they want the government to help people for them.
To add to that, it's really the big thing is that they will say the rich need to pay their dues. And when they don't understand how taxes fucking work in the first place, how percentage-wise, how much do you think the 1% pay in taxes versus the 99%?
Most.
Okay? They pay a large majority of the taxes.
I believe it's somewhere around 70%.
It's somewhere around 70%. You're correct. I believe that is the number. Okay? They pay the majority of the taxes. They're the ones who give you jobs in the first place. They're the ones who give money to other entrepreneurs who want to expand upon the economy, to give jobs to more people.
They pay you.
And on top of that, they typically pay more taxes even with the loopholes that are available to them.
Yes.
And then they call it exploitation. This drives me up
A fucking wall. I'm with it.
I mean,
yes.
it's like they pretend like every bit of freedom of choice has been taken away from you because you work for Walmart.
You
Oh,
cannot-
God forbid.
Kidding me? I mean, you could literally. I've gotten into so many conversations with people about this. How they act like people who work at Walmart or McDonald's are stuck in their jobs and that they can't get out. It's frustrating because all of us have the experience of writing out a resume and
Yes.
promoting ourselves based on our prior experience.
Also,
You
is
know how
there-
it
Exploitation
works?
cannot apply where you have personal choice in the matter.
Look, here's my thing. People who bitch about where they work, and you say that I feel like I don't have a choice. Is there a fucking firearm aimed at your head? If you don't like your job, better yourself. It's as simple as that. Okay? Stop bitching and moaning and maybe actually get a skill set that matters to the people, to the world. Okay? I don't care that you can do a silly dance theory, whatever. Okay? I'm not going to say the other part. Okay? But you know what I'm about to say. Okay? It's that simple. Bring something to the world that actually matters. Okay?
And on top of that, there seems to be a big focus on younger people to achieve their dreams. The truth of the matter, the vast majority of people are not ever going. If your dreams are to become a Hollywood star, if your dreams are to become the next biggest model, the next biggest influencer, the likelihood of you actually becoming that is fairly low. It's damn near zero.
Almost zero.
Almost zero. So if it's almost zero, why not put some effort into actually bettering your skills into a profession that is actually useful for society as a whole?
And this is, by the way, this is coming from two fucking car salesmen. We're fucked, right? We're absolutely boned.
And on that end, I'm a filmmaker. I'm one of those guys that like fits into the dreamer aspect. I don't necessarily like view my aspect or job as a
And Mikey
dreamer.
works for the
I'm not necessarily into that. Like I'm going to be in Hollywood. Like I'm not going to Hollywood. I want to do my job. I pursue filmmaking as more of a hobby and something that I very much enjoy and something that I don't want to be corrupted. Technically, that is what I do in my job, but I don't want it to be corrupted by like. Anyway, why don't you start talking? about stuff?
The possibility. I'm gonna just
Wow.
interrupt him real fast.
I'm gonna go ahead and puppeteer.
One second.
Shove
One
my hand
second.
up his
One
ass
second.
quick.
One second. The
Typical fucking
possibility
vegan
of this
being a
podcast.
disappointment.
The possibility of this podcast ever getting 1 million plus views is probably very low.
Fuck you too.
That's
Liam.
why we should probably invest our skills into doing something a little bit more useful, but that's not fun.
Cringe take.
But that's
Wow.
Thanks a lot for canceling
Man.
this podcast on the second
This
episode.
podcast is
God.
going to be huge.
It's gonna
like
be
my
huge.
wall.
So
I would
huge.
love it to be huge. Don't get me wrong. I want nothing more in the world.
Audience, with a
Okay.
small loan of $1 million,
gonna-
we will make this podcast the biggest movement to move the American people
Okay, so Jacob,
I promise.
in the future, less drugs and
Can't wait till we're billionaires.
What?
less drugs and the alcohol in the future. No, it's just ridiculous. This entitlement culture is, if you can't muster up a smile in your day-to-day life, especially working for a job where they pay you to do that job and where you're faced with customers, you can't smile, you've got some real things to work on. If that is the reason that you're not able to move forward with your career, guarantee it 100%. You can't find one little piece of enjoyment in what you do 8 hours a day, 8 to 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day.
Truly.
You can't figure out that piece of enjoyment. I've worked jobs where the negatives outweighed the benefits. I've worked jobs where the work environment was fantastic, didn't really pay enough. And you have to find some kind of a balance. If all you do is sit there and complain about how you're exploited for the work that you do, and you can't muster up 1 ounce of pride or drive to do better, you're never going to do better.
And on that, and I will say on that aspect, protesting is not a job. Protesting doesn't do anything. I will say this as a person who's been to a Trump rally. I will say this as a person who's been to a Black Lives Matter rally. I didn't join these rallies. I was filming at these rallies. This was a job, just to clarify. But both of these rallies, I don't understand the point of rallies. I don't understand the point of protesting. I don't think that makes any sense. And I don't understand the people who are going out to Black Lives Matter, to Trump rallies, and thinking that they're making a difference. You're not. You're walking in a circle and screaming. That's all you're doing. And to think that you make a difference because you're doing that is ridiculous. And I want to point out a humongous irony. When I walked in the Black Lives Matter rally, I was filming at the front of the line. Now, granted, I had some friends. I really respect these people. I like these people. But the biggest thing that I found ironic is that they were screaming F the police at the front of the line, and they were escorted by the police because we were walking in the middle of the freaking road. So what the heck was that?
Liam, once you say your thing, I've got one thing as well.
See, I do want to add on to that. I do, for the most part, agree that ultimately most protests probably don't accomplish anything. Of course, I appreciate that you believe in something hard enough to protest about it.
Look, you have the right. You can do it if you want to. If you think it makes any difference, it doesn't.
They're so entertaining.
They're
so entertaining. Like for instance, like when the abortion,
Don't be a tool.
when Roe v. Wade was overturned and Texas decided to take the base stance of not letting women kill their children. Ultimately, there was a protest in Fort Worth, Texas. So I was like, I get very excited when I see these things because I know I'm going to see hilarious things. So I took my camera. I was like, oh, there's a protest going on. And ultimately, it's just a bunch of people screaming at each other in the middle of Fort Worth to try to dictate a state law, which it probably won't. And in the end, it's more than likely a wasted effort.
Now, I will say this, though, right? First, about why they protest, right? Why a lot of people protest, right? They may say that's because, it's for change, right? But reality is, deep down, they know it's just because it's cathartic to just vent out your frustrations, right? And
Stop. Bring the mic towards you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's brought towards me. So I get it. It's all about catharsis, right? It feels good to just scream out your frustrations, especially the more violent protests. I won't say, and I won't name names. Nah, fuck it. Yeah, BLM. Fuck it. No, seriously.
BLM.
You burned down a target.
I was
man.
about to
Mostly
say,
peaceful
I was about to
protests.
say it for you,
My
but you went ahead
ass.
and did it.
No, like I get it. In that kind of environment, and what's unfortunate is that we're just allowing people to vent out their frustrations in such a chaotic, unhealthy way of destroying people's property. Okay, it's unhealthy. But the thing is, I do understand, right, why people feel the way they feel. Right, it's because a lot of people, Gen Zers, are probably depressed. Right, they feel as if nothing they do matters. Right, and so it's why they on Facebook they spout about how there needs to be a change when they know, hopefully, that deep down the change that needs to happen is within. Right, if you can't change your life for the better, then how can you expect to bring positive change to the world? Okay.
And it's a shame that these people are espousing this world needs to change around them when all of these people are taking depression medication, who have their own unbelievable struggles, and who say like the world needs to change around me. No, you don't. And look, I have incredible sympathy for people on each side of the spectrum who are legitimately going through depression. But if you are going to take a page from anything, at least take a page from Jordan Peterson. Agree or disagree with him, he at least says change yourself first. Because that is going to lead to ultimately, like, you fix yourself, you fix the problems with yourself, you're confident in what you are, and you are set in genuine morals and a good structure, then you can probably go out and commit charity to people, to commit, like, unless that happens, like, you're essentially worthless.
And hey, to a certain extent, I do sympathize with it. I mean, Gen Z is still very young. We are all still very young. We're still trying to find what our purpose is. And when you have a bunch
why
of
we have this podcast.
Exactly. This is our purpose. Actually, I've pretty much figured it out. No, but
Wow.
but
That was a quick change over 15 minutes.
No, but ultimately, when you have a bunch of impressionable young people that see something that they could perceive as changing the tide, then they're going to latch on that naturally because they want a purpose. That's the natural drive of a young person. They want some kind of purpose in their life, and they just haven't found it yet. Hopefully, when they grow up, and as trends show, when people grow up, they tend to be a little bit more settled. They tend to be a little bit more realistic. They tend to understand the world to a better extent. Hopefully, they'll start to understand that the things that they're latching onto are one, completely false, and two, utterly ridiculous.
Well, and there's something to be said on this because I recognize the importance of individualism, but there's nothing wrong with trying to be part of a greater society that works and builds towards something, or to a better future. I understand that they twist that into progressivism, but we're talking about the difference between things that we know works, traditional values in marriage and having kids and spreading those values to your kids and maintaining a cohesive structure, and then keeping those individualistic things in your private life. But then they also want to equate that with walking your boyfriend around on a leash in Walmart. You know, I mean, this is...
By the way, if you do that, we will link a number down below. Please call that number. You need help.
Like I do agree with you on that point. I'm not a big fan of the taking individualism to its absolute extreme, because ultimately the things that other people do within a society will eventually have some kind of effect on you. So looking through the lens of the individual in and of itself, to me, just doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, we all live in a world where we all participate in the laws that are made. We all participate in the market that we work for, and we all participate in building the civilization we live in.
That's true.
I'll maybe just add a side point to that. My dad always had this saying when I was a kid: if you grow up and you're not a liberal when you're younger, then you're heartless, because liberals generally have the idea of being understanding and sympathetic. And if you're not a conservative when you get older, then you're an idiot, because generally conservatives are more interested in policy, if things work or not. We're not interested in the feeling aspect. We're interested in does this actually function in society aspect. Right. So figuring that out as a society.
So I'm just going to say something real quick. Now, I know I've been throwing a lot of shade at our generation. You know, most people may think it's unfair of me. So allow me to kind of say this, right? Whatever, as based as we are, right? Obviously, what?
That was cringe.
No, it was pretty based. But absolutely, you know, like if there is some flaw with our logic, right, with what we're saying, obviously, I would love for people to comment down below, right? I love discourse, okay? And we're a small channel, right? If you have something you disagree with, absolutely comment down. We would love to start a civil kind of discourse on it. You're probably wrong, but it's fine. But another thing, for a lot of people, I was kind of saying back where a lot of people, people in our generation might be depressed, right? I just wanted to add one quick thing about that. So if you do feel as if really life is hard, I get it. I've been depressed. I probably still am depressed. Mikey, you might have been depressed at one point.
Never. I
Oh,
love life.
shit. Well, all right, never mind.
That's
But-
based.
But really, the thing I'll say is that, just do something that will better yourself in the sense of something that might bring value to the world, but also something that you truly believe in. And, it may seem like it's hard that, like, I may try something, but I'm probably going to be put down by, the bigger guys, right? That may be the case, but the reason why people are on the top is because they worked for where they were at. It didn't come easy.
And I agree with you on that aspect. And the central reason why I believe our generation is really struggling, and I think you kind of touched on this, is that we lack purpose. We don't lack a central goal. We're not united in the same way. Again, you can say that for religion. You can say that for a job. You can say we're not united in any way, shape, or form. And we don't have a central goal or an understanding. Like, both people on each political side do not speak the same language in any way, shape, or form. Like, again, going back to what we did in the last podcast, you have an AI that as soon as you get on your phone, it is preaching to you one side of the political aisle, and that's it, because it has an algorithm that understands what you like, and it will preach to what you like. We don't speak the same language. We don't have a united goal. We are not united in any way, shape, or form. We're a completely divided and confused country that does not unite under one single purpose.
So I want to circle this back to some of the subjects I brought up in the very beginning of the podcast, and ask the question of how much of this lack of direction, this lack of purpose, comes from an overall lack of religion. Because at the end of the day, only 40% of 40%, I believe, of Gen Zers are even actively religious. We have 34% that are unaffiliated, and we have 18% that identify as agnostic and atheist. I am among one of those. I am an agnostic. I don't necessarily believe in God, though I tend to lean more towards the direction of being in favor of religion and wanting to believe in God. But how much of that do you think plays a
flex, but
role
okay.
in our lack of overall purpose and our lack of direction in life?
Yeah, no, I mean, so if you're not religious, you can at least recognize the values that work from religion.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason that these values came about. In my opinion, I think it's because they work. And so people crafted lifestyles around this. People who were prominent back in biblical era and all that kind of stuff preached values that resonated with people and generally just worked. Love thy neighbor. Love your love thy parents. Don't kill. Don't steal. That sort of thing. And I mean, you put it all together, and you have traditional values that create a cohesive family, and you end up successful from it. You don't end up in jail. You don't end up on the streets. Or if you end up on the streets, you still find community with people who all share the same plight. So if you can't find the religious connection to it, I at least think that people should try to take a page from it and apply it to their lives.
Jacob, your turn.
I'm Christian. What? So I'm
He is
Christian in
Christian.
that aspect. I'm Christian
He
in that
forgot.
aspect. I believe
He forgot.
I'm entirely. I believe in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. So to that aspect, I think I differ from a few people in this room. But in that aspect, I subscribe to Christian tradition morality. And even if you don't believe in the Christian God, even if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, I believe that the morality of Christianity that the Bible does teach is true. I believe that what the Bible teaches is morally correct. Like you said, you look at the Ten Commandments. Everything you say on that is true. Even in the killing aspect, I'll get specific on that. When the Ten Commandments says "do not kill," it says "do not murder." That's a mistranslation from the King James version. Dagnabbit King James translation, it says "do not murder." That's a completely different thing between killing. Either way, the morality of the Bible is true if you look at it from a very objective point of view. Even if you're not a Christian, you can understand that that is a very moral aspect. But on that aspect, I'm a very religious person. I go to church pretty much every single week. I have a very religious family. So on that aspect, I subscribe to Christianity. I very much worship the God, the Son of God, Jesus, and the Trinity, our God, the Son, the Holy Spirit. So all of that aspect, I subscribe to that. And I believe on that aspect, what we were talking about earlier, the purpose, even if you're not Christian, I believe you really do need that in your life. You need a purpose in your life. And again, when all else in my life, when all else fails, when my passions, which is filmmaking, fail, when the things that I like to do, when I'm angry with my friends, when I'm angry with my family, all of that fails, God is the most consistent part of my life, and it is my purpose in my life. Even though I am a sinner, I am not perfect, I am not a moral example. I would not use me as an example in any way, shape, or form. When all of that fails, I go to God. I go to God for forgiveness. I go to God for protection. I go to God for comfort, and He's the most consistent thing in my life in that aspect, and I subscribe to Him before all things.
And, that's actually why I've started going to church, by the way. Not because it was a customer.
It was exactly for that reason.
Sale.
So he's
I
going
did
to
sell a
church. He
car to
has to
this
build
man.
his clientele,
Capitalism
and
at
once he
work,
makes
ladies
the
and gentlemen.
profit, he is
Sell a car
out.
to this man.
He is out.
But,
This is why I don't trust politicians.
oh, brother. But even before I started going to church and I was getting more and more curious about religion and becoming more faithful, I always believed in like the doctrines and also just the way you should perhaps live your life as a human being, right? I've always agreed with that, but I think the big reason why I've truly started going to church and why I believe I'm starting to find God is because, and it's something that I lacked that a lot of other Gen Zers also probably lack, is consistency. Something that's consistent that you can rely on, that you can believe in, right? And that is what religion has done for me. It's something that it's a consistent thing that I can do every Sunday, right? I feel welcomed in the house of God, right? A lot of people are very kind, gentle. It's always a pleasant experience. And I think that's what, as I said prior, what a lot of people in our generation are lacking is just this consistent, just kind of sensation of, acceptance or, something to believe in, right? Because politics, oh, brother.
Lovely.
Wow. But, I'm sure, people are, are consistent with their politics as much as, Joe Biden is with his speaking. God. Bruh, look, at least, but I do believe, though, that my life has become better since becoming more faithful. Truly, I believe that. Now, I'm not saying that, you have to necessarily be... so sorry. It's okay. Pretty cringe, Mikey. Pretty cringe, man. Not going to lie. No, I'm about to say, Liam, that's not based. But I truly believe that. Does it have to be religion? Look, maybe not, but find something that you can truly have, believe in consistently, right? Something that consistently makes you happy and feel accepted, right? Now, when I say accepted, I'm not saying go to a safe space. Bullshit. Or anything like that. But, I do think, though, that, I finding God and finding religion is something that has bettered my life, as I said. So
And I do want to add on to that. I do, for me, as someone who leans more agnostic, but also leans more in favor of religion overall, I do agree with the practicability aspect of applying these morals to your life. I will, however, say that when you don't have that structure, it makes it very difficult to apply that in every aspect of your life, because you don't have anything, say, dictating that you abide by that code other than your own will. And sometimes it really does become difficult to live consistently by that principle without religion. And I don't know, it becomes a very difficult thing for me. Like, I wish that more people went to church. I wish that more people were religious, even though I myself am not.
I find it funny that a lot of people who are not religious, and I'm not necessarily insulting anyone in this room, or, well, I'm definitely insulting somebody out there, to an aspect where people do not want to believe in Christianity or are nervous about joining Christianity is they believe they'll be slave to something, or they believe they'll be slave to a god. I'm not saying it's the case for everybody. I am saying that's the case for some. They don't want to be subjected to a god who is controlling to them.
He
to that
saw his
aspect,
opportunity and took it.
yeah, and to that aspect, I would argue in your wants, your needs, your desires will become your God, if that's the aspect. Your wants and desires are going to become more important to you than most things are going to be controlling to you more than a God.
If I may, Jacob.
Yeah.
This what I will say will be incredibly based.
But
Yay.
here's my big thing actually with the comment about they don't want to feel enslaved from a god or like through like religion or something, is that really, a lot of people may think that, but yet they themselves are enslaved by their own political ideology. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Your politics become your
politics
God.
becomes your identity, right? Like, so, and I know people like to spout about individualism, right? But Gen Zers, unfortunately for them, and this was kind of maybe my problem at one point, I don't know, but your politics became your persona, your personality.
This is where the NPC meme came from.
I would argue to an extent, even without that kind of religious structure, on top of what you're saying, where ultimately your politics does become religion. That works both ways. If you're a non-religious conservative, that tends to apply as well. I know a lot of people on our side of the aisle that aren't religious that tend to just make the right-wing talking points their theology. For lack of a better term, they tend to praise the gospel of their own political ideology.
And that aspect, like, Donald Trump is not our savior. Joe Biden is not our savior. The government will not come to save you.
I will.
To the end all, to be all, like, Donald Trump changed his own politics to fit in the Republican aspect. Joe Biden did the exact same thing. They are interested in their own self-gain, so don't fall to them as their default. They are part of the government.
I saw a
Liam,
video.
if I may real
One
quick.
moment.
No. I promise. It's really quick. It's really quick, actually. Jacob, look.
Yes.
Bitch about them all you want.
I will.
But here's the thing, though. Our presidents, including Barack Obama, they're so base because they play Yu-Gi-Oh. They make tier lists, bro. Dude, I saw they made a tier list about fucking condiments. Okay. By the way, they gave mayo S tier. So based.
Listen, going back to the AI argument,
Why are you
I want
leaving?
those. I want AI as president. I want those AI as presidents. We did this video right before we did the podcast. They were all singing "I'll tell you all about it before I see you again" or whatever the frick that song was. Are you going away? Liam's
No,
gone.
I'm not. I just had to get up for a moment after hearing that.
What do you mean? It was
Sorry.
it's
I do have-
incredibly
I do
based.
apologize.
There's a bathroom over there that I need to finish.
It's mid-tier range on the base and cringe scale.
Oh, brother.
But now I just lost my train of thought. No, what I was gonna bring up is, yes, ultimately on that point, I saw a video the other day that was a conspiratorial video, asking is Donald Trump the Jewish Messiah?
Is this up for debate?
I feel like it should be up for debate.
I don't think it is. Is Donald Trump the Jewish Messiah?
No, like seriously, I came across this video asking, and again, this kind of goes back to making politics your religion.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that sounds like somebody who's not religious at all posing the question.
Yeah.
That is. Oh my God.
When people try to mix the New Age spiritualism with Christianity, that kind of creates a whole mess of an ideology in
Oh, yeah.
itself. This came specifically from a person that does try to mesh those ideologies together, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I have no comment. I don't want the shadow governments going after us for any reason, you know. But
What is going every?
to your point, I mean, 100% people make ideology their. I'm sorry, people make politics their ideology. Welcome back, Mr. Sizemore.
Well, howdy. And this
We were
seems
waiting. By the way, if this isn't doing it for you, you can purchase our online course for $69.99 on Sigma base mail.
And we'll send in this free body pillow to you.
No.
Yeah,
No, we will
please.
not.
In fact,
Alright.
we will express ship it same day.
No.
So is this the perfect time to cut the episode off?
I guess.
I guess.
I guess.
Well,
Hail
howdy.
to
Are
our
we all on
Jewish
board on
Messiah,
this?
Donald Trump.
Praise the Jewish Messiah, Donald Trump.
I gotta go.
And you
We are
folks out there,
incredibly based.
you have
I gotta
a
go.
lovely night.